All right, all right. Yeah. I think we're streaming. I think we're streaming live. That's what we do. When we stream live. It's your man, Manny Faces. On Hip Hop Can Save America. Yeah. Yeah. What up, everybody? It's your man, Manny Faces, rocking with you. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. It's Hip Hop Can Save America with Manny Faces, the live stream show, the most enlightening hip hop live stream in the world, I think. Maybe. Self proclaimed. I mean, just want to check out some things, let some folks trickle in. Peace and love if you're checking in. Want to make sure that I'm looking good, sounding good, smelling good, tasting good on the interwebs. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Word up, word up. So what I do is I say a few things while the stream starts, and then people trickle in. It's very casual and all that. But when we're ready to get started, for real, it goes a little something like this. Hit it.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one.
The thing about hip hop today is it's smart. It's insightful. The way that they can communicate a complex message in a very short space is remarkable. And a lot of these kids, they're not going to be reading the New York Times. That's not how they're getting their information.
My hip hop will rock and shock the nation. Hip hop culture is more than music.
Peace to you and speak the truth. Show 'em what peace can do in their race for you.
My hip hop will rock and shock the nation. Rap is something you do. Hip hop is something you live.
So hip hop didn't invent anything, but hip hop reinvented everything.
This is Baby Girl Faces. And this episode is brought to you by
It is peace and love once again. It's your man, Manny Faces. Hip Hop Can Save America, the world's most enlightening hip hop podcast. Shouts to our peoples that are trickling and checking in. Shouts to Andrew Wang on the check-in, one of our supporters, great friend of the show, and we appreciate your support. One new supporter. I don't actually amplify this enough, but on my incredible newsletter called Words I Manifest, which you can find at mannyfaces.substack.com. We also have people that subscribe to the newsletter, and I send out stories of hip-hop inspiration and innovation and insight to that newsletter, that mailing list, a bunch of events. If you've been here before, you know the kind of stuff we talk about. If you're just new and you want to know the type of stuff we talk about, we love to talk about the intersection of hip-hop and other areas of humanity, not just entertainment, right? So hip-hop being used in ways that can uplift humanity, hip-hop being used in educational spaces, hip-hop being used in mental health settings, hip-hop being used in politics and social justice. So we talk about these things and we spread that kind of message through the newsletter. And through the newsletter, you can support my work, and some people do. And I just wanted to shout out a new supporter from the newsletter side, Patrick. Patrick runs a organization which we've talked about in the past called Rhymes Over Beats, and it is a hip hop theater company. And if you recall, a few episodes before this one, we had Master Ace was one of the guests on this show. And of course, Rhymes Over Beats is the theater production company that's helping him get his musical play off the ground. They've already had some readings and some trial play presentations, and it'll be something that they're working on this year. So we just wanted to shout out Rhymes Over Beats, Patrick over there, hooking me up on the promotional support tip. Again, the newsletter is super dope. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. You can go to my Patreon account and you can throw some dollars into the pot. All of this fanciness takes takes money, and we try to stay really independent here and not have to worry about other folks and telling us what we can't or can't talk about. So that's what we do here. Normally I have a co-host, a guest with me, Silent Night, who you might know, a prolific artist, brilliant dude, front man of the band called Fuse, but a solo rapper in his own right for many, many years. Shouts to SK if you're on the check-in. Can't be here in person with us, so I'm going to carry it solo today. I'm still testing things out. This is a new streaming system, new platform that I've been working on. So I've been doing things like, that. I could switch things around if I wanted to. Yeah. I can do some things. So I'm working on some things, and I hope that you bear with me as we get this fully up and running so that in the next few weeks and months, we will have a great presentation and production. We are having guests lined up from, again, all kind of areas where hip-hop and other aspects of society intersect. And if you know me, you know that that's kind of the specialty, and that's what we normally go on to. So one of the things we love to carry on this show is to share with y'all, and I do this in the newsletter as well. Too much time we hear about hip-hop news that's about dumb stuff or gossipy stuff or the entertainment stuff, and there's plenty of places for that, plenty of locations to do that, plenty of bloggers, plenty of websites, plenty of podcasts, or what are called podcasts sometimes to do that. But on this show, we like to do a little something that's called hip-hop news that isn't about dumb shit. So hip-hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. And what I do is I collect as I find them throughout the week and throughout the weeks. I look for news items that are really interesting take on hip-hop. And again, those intersections, generally speaking, is kind of what we want to focus on. Okay. Get situated right here. All right, there we go. So I'll share some of those with you today. And again, you'll definitely want to sign up for the Words I Manifest newsletter. It's a beautiful newsletter. Again, free. Can you hear me when that thing swirls? It's beautiful. Isn't that fancy? I love it. I don't know if it cuts off my voice when it happens. That's all I don't know. But yeah, so again, mannyfaces.substack.com. Let me see if I could put it maybe in the chat. Just so you don't forget it. I'm still solo. So I have to handle all this stuff myself. One day I'll have a co-producer working with me. That'd be nice. In the meantime, it's just me. I've been fighting off a sickness down here in the Atlanta area. It's gotten cold finally down here in Atlanta. We got some bad weather coming in. My people's back in New York. Shouts to y'all. Like, I know y'all get like snow and wind and rain and all kind of stuff popping in. So yeah, tell me where y'all from. Tell me where you're checking in. Tell me how the weather is up there or out there, wherever y'all are at. Here's some things now. You might be watching this live. You also might be watching this on the playback or the live stream. So either way, check out that newsletter. Andrew Wang, once again on the check-in, our good brother Andrew, who is recovering with the flu. My man, my mellow. I feel for you, man. It's the season. You know what I mean? My people's up in New York. Someone got COVID, someone's got the flu. It is what it is. Prism's in the house. What up, Prism? Good looking. Good to see. I think you hit me, and I think you added to the newsletter. So shouts to you. We'll be adding you. Make sure you're getting all that stuff, and I do appreciate that. The culture. What up, podcast brethren? What are we drinking? This will be Evan Williams bourbon. Evan Williams bourbon tonight. Celebrating that we made it to a new year. Happy New Year. It's the first broadcast for the new year. And took that kind of last end of the year, couple weeks off. But again, if you haven't caught this show, you can do two things. What I'm doing, just so you know, is we'll be having interviews, of course. That's the bread and butter of the show, me rambling on for hours like a talk show, like talk radio. I'll do a little bit of that, no problem. But also we'll have interviews with really interesting and amazing people like I've been doing for the past, few years. We'll have those things on the audio podcast. So if you're an audio podcast fan, you can still get the interviews that you'll see here on the video. We're going to rip those so that they'll be solo video. So like I said, we had Master Ace. It was on the live stream, but we have that video separate. So if you don't want to sit through the whole show, you can just go into the YouTube. I hope that's where you're watching me from. There might be someone watching from Facebook. If you're on Facebook, here's the thing. Don't tell Facebook, but we really want everybody on YouTube. So come on over to YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. The numbers are going up, so people are liking what we're doing. So I appreciate that. But come on over to YouTube. Shh, don't tell the algorithm, but come on over to YouTube. You can go to it by hiphopcansaveamerica.watch /watch. Hip hop, I'll type it. hiphopcansaveamerica.com/watch. That's the platform we're going to kind of want to go to and use over, and I'll forward you to YouTube, to my YouTube channel. So check that out. You go to youtube.com/Manny Faces. That'll take you there too. But try to sign up over there. We're building that numbers up. We want to get, to the level where, you got to get to a different level where you get monetized, YouTubers, you know what I'm talking about. But just want to get that reach over there. There's functionality that we have there that we don't have anywhere else, and we're going to really take advantage of that. So once again, look, I can show my own comment. Look at this. hiphopcansaveamerica.com. That's where you can find the audio version of the podcast. So if you still want to get, put on your podcast app, your Spotify or your Apple Podcast, you can do that there. And then /watch forwards you over to the YouTube page where all this beautiful beauty happens. And I'm working on it. And again, this is a complicated thing. So we're going to do, oh, look at that. I got a little pop-up. Shouts to Ladavang. Just subscribe. So shouts to you. Appreciate you. And look, we get real-time alerts. How beautiful is that? So once again, tonight we're going to focus on two things. Since I don't have a guest, I wanted to go one more week without a guest. I didn't want to I want to make sure this technology is technologing before I go to a thing. So we're going to have two things tonight. We're going to have number one, hip-hop news that isn't about dumb shit. And then number two, we're going to have a segment, which is an open discussion. I want to make sure that we have a place. One of the things about this show and this podcast, which has always been just interviews when it was audio only. But now that we're doing this and we have people tuning in and kind of participating, you see we have people in the comments section, like say Prism's in the house, Andrew's in the house, of course, the coaches rocking with us. I want to be able to have conversations or places where we can have some of these deeper debates that you might see on Facebook sometimes. Someone will put up a post and complain about a thing in hip hop or, make an observation about something in hip hop. And then there'll be a bunch of people commenting and, sometimes that's great. And I love to have those barbershop discussions, so to speak, on Facebook in the comment section. But there's something I think to be said to doing it like kind of this way, live, bantering. So I will that you might want my take on. I'm not the spokesperson for hip hop, but I have some interesting perspectives because of all the work that I do, throughout the years as sort of a journalist and connoisseur, but also just a nuanced observer of hip hop music and culture. And so I try to give some feedback and some stuff. And I will appreciate it if we do that. And that's a little segment that we're gonna have repeatedly on the show, and we're gonna test it out tonight. It's called So that's another segment we're going to have. So we want to have these little segments where people will give their 2 cents about something they may be thinking about, in the hip hop world. So that's something we want to share. Now, again, new technologies, a lot of tech stack working behind the scenes to make this work. So we're going to, we may see some hiccups. We may see some things working and not working. You guys let me know. Andrew Wang says, who wants to be a millionaire? Yeah. You like that, right? Like, see, one of the things, this is behind the scenes stuff, but one of the things is I can't hear that. So when I was setting that up and I could play it for y'all, I know y'all hear it because I checked the playback, but I don't hear it on my headphones now. I don't know why. It's weird. It should let me do that. So I don't know. So I got to figure these things out so that in the middle of a show, I don't get thrown off. So anyway, that's why I'm working on those things. So yeah, we're going to talk about a couple things. Really, you can start putting your ideas in the chat room, maybe a couple things you want to either talk about or make an observation on the record about hip hop in general. And as you know, we can talk about the music stuff. We can talk about the artist stuff, the gossipy stuff. That's not really what we do here, but it gives us an opportunity to maybe, do a little bit of that. Why not? So again, I wanted to share a couple of stories that I came across recently that, just something to share, sort of stories that are, like I said, about hip hop that you don't normally hear about. Because most media, including hip-hop media especially, spend a lot of time talking about, where's my banner? See, I lost my banner. Talking about all that other stuff, the gossipy stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So once in a while, we like to show some things that are happening. I think Andrew, matter of fact, might have sent this one to me. I do collect a lot of stories on my own, but I do appreciate when people hit me because then you see them appear here and on the in the newsletter. This is a story about, of course, RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan to receive 2024 NAMM Innovation Award. RZA, producer mastermind behind Wu-Tang Clan, will be presented the Tech Innovation Award at the NAMM's 2024 Tech Awards on January 27th. By the way, it's my birthday month, and my birthday is January 31st. It's very important to know. You can buy me things. You can actually subscribe on my Patreon. That'd be a great birthday gift. I'd love you for that. The award honors individuals who have set the highest standards of excellence in the creative application of recording technology. Originally known as the NAMM Tech Les Paul Innovation Award, named after, of course, the legendary guitarist Les Paul, RZA will be the first recipient who's primarily known for hip-hop. Previous recipients include Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Stevie Wonder and the great Herbie Hancock. John Michalczak, the president and CEO of NAMM, said in a statement, RZA's formidable body of work and talent is unquestionable. His legacy of accomplishments and lasting power on music inspires many music makers beyond hip-hop, and he deserves this high recognition. So shouts to RZA, Wu-Tang getting an innovation award at the NAMM. NAMM is the National Association of Music Makers. I don't know. I'm making it up. I don't really remember exactly what it is. But that being said, it's interesting that this organization finally, I guess, recognizes the technological innovation of hip-hop artists, which is weird because hip-hop's always had an incredible influence on music technology. I do a whole keynote speech, actually a keynote presentation, and I do a whole teacher professional development workshop on hip hop and technology, hip hop and STEM, hip hop and and STEAM, and part of that is going back throughout the history of hip hop music and culture and seeing how much technical innovation came. I mean, starting from Grandmaster Flash and turntables being kind of rewired and reworked all the way through. What Soulja Boy did by like kind of pimping out the peer-to-peer, LimeWire file sharing systems, like, and then even to now today being folks like was it Travis Scott doing like metaverse concerts, like the technological innovation of hip hop artists has always been sort of at the front, the cutting edge, especially because that's kind of how hip hop came to be. Remember, hip hop didn't have. We didn't have, young people didn't have instruments, didn't have arts programs, didn't have music programs in New York, where kind of where it began, and so you have this remix culture that's saying, well, we can take turntables, we can take beat machines, and we could take sounds and samples from other places, and just the actual creation of early hip hop was a technological, was brilliance. You know what I mean? So that it took a music technology award this long to recognize someone in hip hop, it's great. It's like the Grammys, you know what I mean? Like, we appreciate the recognition, but where y'all been? Like, y'all should have been done this. But okay, fine, we'll take it. So I thought that was an interesting story. Once again, something you don't see talked about too much. Hip hop often gets a bad rap, no pun intended. Actually, pun always intended. Speaking about sort of sampling and that kind of thing, Les McCann was a jazz pioneer, sampled by Biggie, Snoop, and songs by Dr. Dre. Great jazz musician, pianist, and obviously as Rolling Stone here, who we hate, right? We hate when Rolling Stone posts a list of whatever, but then when they post a story about Pop Master Fable, great, break-in legend, get hit by a car and having to fight his way back to health. We don't post that story as much as we post the stories that we don't like. So that's something we got to talk about, hip-hop. Y'all got to do better about this. But anyway, Les McCann, a trailblazing pianist and singer known for fusing strains of jazz, funk, and R&B and pioneering soul. Jazz died Friday, so I guess a week or so ago, at the age of 88. You would know him from his music from songs like 10 Crack Commandments by Biggie, Tribe Called Quest, After Hours, and Next Episode, of course, Snoop and Dr. Dre. This article says nearly 300 artists, including Warren G, Slick Rick, Cypress Hill, and Nas, have taken inspiration and sampled McCann's work in their music. So rest in peace to the late, great Les McCann. And you know what? I like listening to jazz. Jazz is a great art form, musical genre that obviously has a lot of connection and vibes with hip hop. So, let's not wait till obviously these pioneers are gone to recognize and jump into some other other areas to listen to and kind of vibe and appreciate. But you can find a lot of original jazz compositions in a lot of hip hop, and so it's always a good time to stop and look and listen to see who's been influencing our favorite artists over the years, and listen to more jazz, man. This was just something that came out today. Well, y'all heard about this. National Association of Music Merchants, says Andrew Wang, who, of course, will correct me, being the top-notch music educator that he is. Andrew, that's right. Andrew reminded me that the National Association the National Association for Music Education is an organization. Now, a lot of the people that listen to this show or watch the show are music educators. We have a ton, especially like the hip-hop ed folk and people like that. So you'll want to remember that if you're a member of the National Association for Music Education, they're voting for their president. And, Andrew brought this up to me, and I appreciate it because, again, this is another thing that's been on my hip-hop mind, is when we hear about people who are in positions to regulate or, kind of administer music education. We talk about hip-hop and music education a couple of ways. We talk about it with using hip hop as a way to teach a subject, right? That's one way that music and that hip hop and education combine. We've used it in almost every subject, certainly science, math, reading, vocabulary, using hip hop to teach literary devices to ELA students, using hip hop science genius program, the battles where young science students will make rhymes about their work, the material they're learning, and then they'll have to battle somebody else with it, which obviously is a brilliant thing to have to do because you have to have really command of your concepts. You have to have command of the material to be able to make a song out of it that's good enough to battle someone else and their song about their science concepts. And it's a brilliant program. And so we see that hip hop's being used in those ways. The other thing, which we don't talk about enough, and I want to, and I will be telling y'all about a conference that's happening. I'm getting all the details. It's a conference that's happening in Madison, Wisconsin, but I think it's virtual. So we're going to have a way that y'all could take part in this. And this is what I also want from hip hop people that are not educators, but we mature and grown and we want to see hip hop expand and live and survive and thrive. And we talk about what we don't like every day on the internet. We talk about it all day, what we don't like from hip hop, what's out there today. So what I want us to do is to know about these other things where we can get involved as parents, some of us as teachers, and we can say, okay, we do hip hop, we see hip hop in a different way, and we know that it can affect young people in a positive way, in a way that doesn't get a lot of attention. So when I say there's a conference or when there's the National Association of Music Educators, if you're a music educator teacher, you should be part of this organization because it's your trade organization, and you should be voting because and we didn't get a chance. This was sprung on me, recently, and again, I appreciate Andrew for bringing it to my attention. But there are people running for positions. There are two people running for president in this organization, which is an association of music educators, which will help determine. I assume that there's some kind of either policy making or policy influencing that these big organizations have that can influence music teachers as to how we teach or incorporate hip hop as music. Shouts to the late, great Jarrett Shield, who was up at Berkeley College of Music, who I interviewed several years ago and passed away. And we had these discussions a lot. It's because hip hop doesn't always get treated as music that should be given the same reverence as classical music or as jazz or as any kind of genre before us, that it needs to be incorporated into the music education, music classes. And there's great ways to use hip hop to bridge gaps and to bring things from the past into, what someone sees today, and and using the same way we do it with literature. Same way I've interviewed folks that have used hip hop to help young kids better get a grasp on Shakespeare, and that kind of those literary devices. Hey, this is what Shakespeare did. He did this metaphor, simile, da-da-da. And here's when Jay did it in this song. So that's what I get it now. Like, you see what I'm saying? So anyway, the focus on teaching music, hip hop as music, needs to be emphasized. So there's a conference coming up in February. And I'll tell you about it more. Stick with me, stay back with me, come back and check out the show, subscribe to the newsletter. We'll be sending out information about that. Obviously, it's where music educators should go, but it's also about music, hip hop music, like fans and participants to join the conversation and say, I think that my music and culture can do more in music classes. And I want to see more of that. So you make your voice heard so that the president, and I don't know who won or who's going to win. They're voting tomorrow, I think. And we'll find out. And I'll invite him on the show, him or her, whoever wins, and say, okay, now that you're like in charge of all these music educators, how does hip hop play into your organization's thinking? And what I'll do more is I'll get them on before they're going to be voted on and get them to talk about it like politicians. We'll get them on here like they're doing town halls for all that stuff, because if you're not going to be, if you're going to be in charge of our young people, and you have something to do with music and culture and cultural relevancy, it has to be worked into the mix. And so we need to see where your heads are at. And part of what I do, if y'all know me well, is to, call some of these organizations to account and make sure that they're treating hip hop with the reverence that it needs. As Andrew says, music education conferences not exclusive to music teachers. Absolutely not. That's the point. Matter of fact, hip hop conferences in academic settings, which we talk about a lot also, because I go to a lot of them. I speak at some and I attend a bunch. Shouldn't just be for academics. And that's the whole scheme of this whole show and everything that I do, is that as grown-ups, and I don't mean grown-ups, you could be in your 20s, as, folks that are in positions to say, what can we do to make hip hop, better and to make society better through hip hop? We have these ways of doing it. If we sit and we just lament and complain and cry about the music of today's youth, we're going to be wasting a lot of time that we could be helping implement or advocate for some of these things. So that being said, an interesting story that I saw today, it's New York Times, so it's paywalled, but I think I have an account, so hang on. I'll do this in the background. Hope y'all rocking with me. Hope you're hitting the subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, if you're not on YouTube, come over to YouTube. All right, everyone who's watching now, someone might be watching on Twitter, but come on over to YouTube. It's hiphopcansaveamerica.com/watch. I should put it on the banner. See, look, as I'm doing this live now, it'll be there next time. So this is still me working this out. And I appreciate y'all for being part of this journey. All right, so now I have it here. And if I do that, let's see what that looks like. Oh, dang it. See the things you got to do here to make this work? Anyway, I hope you're enjoying what we're sharing so far. Come back to us every Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, and then, of course, on the playback. And we will tell you about these conferences. This is a story that I saw pop up today. Brooklyn Museum courting pop culture icons. Readies for Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats. Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats, some may know, have been quite well known for their art collection. And they are connoisseurs of art. They have a lot of fancy, expensive artwork. particularly from what I understand from Black artists. But again, artwork of a level that you and me ain't buying art like this. You know what I mean? And we're not talking about prints. They're talking about original, not like you get reproductive prints. So yeah, and they have a lot of art. So they have a lot of money, in art. So the musician Alicia Keys and her husband Kasim Dean, the producer and DJ known professionally as Swiss Beats, have purchased such massive artworks that only a few could squeeze inside their homes in California, New York, and New Jersey. Some colossal paintings eventually got through the door and became staple of the couple's daily routine, backdrops to movie nights and family parties. We have never seen all these artworks in one room, Alicia Keys said in a recent interview, and that'll change February 10th. This is in New York, of course, when monumental artworks from their collection star in a major exhibition at the Brooklyn Museum's Great Hall. So now we're seeing a lot of stuff happening with Jay-Z's big Brooklyn Library exhibition. The Book of Hov just kind of took over the entire library. And now we're seeing museums get into the mix. I think this is all very funny. And not funny. I don't mean funny. Hold on. I didn't even think about this till now. And actually, what are your thoughts about this? What are your thoughts about all their artwork coming to the museum? It's really funny because back in 2019, I wrote an article that says libraries, museums, and universities must welcome hip hop into their halls. Look at that. 2019, I said, there has to be more of this. We need legacy institutions, I said, must include hip hop culture in their programming in thoughtful and authentic ways. And I did a whole article on that and why. And now you see some of this happening. It's great. I'm glad they listened. But the Brooklyn Museum's Great Hall will be filled with the artwork of Swiss Beats and Alicia Keys. Now, I would love to see more of that. I'd love to see not just this, it was Danny Simmons, bear with me, who made a comment about this, which I thought was interesting. And that's why, everything that happens in hip hop is not necessarily, I say everything that hip hop glitters is not always hip hop gold. And you might think off the top of the surface that, having these artwork, these major pop culture icons being featured in the museum is nice. But some might feel different. Now, Danny Simmons, who's, I think, brother to Russell Simmons, and also a renowned artist in his own right, put up this post and said, I'm sure their art advisor put together a nice collection, but this leaning into celebrity to drive folks to the museum is a weak tactic to bolster museum membership. I'm sure mugs will go to be seen and floss. And that brought up a lot of commentary. Like I said, these discussions do happen. My friend Bianca Romero, a wonderful artist in her own right, responds with, the artist list is really solid. I'm excited to go for the artists, but yeah, for sure, the overhype of slapping celebrity names everywhere is corny, especially because I haven't seen any promo content of the actual artists other than a low-res JPEG list of artists that Alicia posted on a second slide in a post. I'd love to see the artist actually highlighted. This happens so often, concert and art shows, and only the DJs and performers are mentioned in the promo, and the actual visual artists aren't mentioned anywhere. It's so weak and a slap in the face. So there are two sides to this not argument. It's two sides to this issue. It's interesting to say, okay, we're bringing hip hop into these major institutions. We've asked for that. Again, 2019, I was asking for it in a piece because I'd seen it done in Newark, New Jersey, where I was at the time. And I saw that they had it was during Black History Month. And it was this, great programming, hip hop panels, do it all from Lords of the Underground, who's now a city council member in Newark, New Jersey, was there. Vinny from Naughty by Nature. They talked about hip hop history. They talked about, and it was great to have this in a library because there are folks who go to libraries who are maybe older or stodgier or, the donor class, the people who donate. They're the ones who, occasionally will go to these you know, these sort of, I don't know, bougie kind of library events or museum events, same thing. And they don't get a taste of culture like hip hop in these legacy institutions. It's not something that happens a lot. So once we saw it happen in Newark embraced it. I wrote the piece. I said more places should be doing this, more libraries and museums and legacy institutions should be doing this. But I did say in the piece, it needs to be done not just for Black History Month. Hip hop is so ingrained in our, Americana that it can't just be, I'll read to the end. Here's what I wrote. You tell me what you think. I said, make no mistake, for every legacy establishment where hip hop isn't invited, hip hop will create its own, just as it's done for every industry which failed to recognize or respect its inherent brilliance and ingenuity. But libraries, museums, and institutes of higher learning have a sacred responsibility to allocate resources to study, document, and preserve all important aspects of the human experience. Newark Library event producer Celeste Bateman and the program sponsor, the PNC Foundation, recognize that hip-hop history, as with Black history, is indeed American history and must be valued as such. Other institutions that have yet to explore this must consider doing the same. Done correctly, it's in those halls where philanthropists, benefactors, and supporters of the arts will not only appreciate the history, but also witness firsthand the innovative work being done to enhance humanity through the world's most dominant youth culture. It's in those halls where young people, particularly young people of color, will engage with the wealth of perspectives and resources that are often hidden from them in plain sight by short-sighted ivory tower indifference. And it's in those halls where hip-hop's elder statespeople, advocates, and allies will help bridge gaps between those groups to ensure that hip-hop receives the respectful, authentic reverence it deserves, and not just in February. So, to Danny Simmons' point, to the Brooklyn Museum, to the Brooklyn Library, it's cool to attach hip-hop, especially Hip-Hop 50. We saw a ton of this last year. It's cool to put hip-hop all in your mix. Jay-Z, Brooklyn Library. And we saw it not just in New York. Obviously, we saw it elsewhere in the world. We saw it, especially last year, Hip-Hop 50, Hip-Hop everything. It's great to have Swiss and Alicia and their big artworks on the walls at the Great Hall and allowing people to come in and take part in that and recognize that, oh, my hip-hop heroes or my hip-hop, elder statesfolk, they do big things. Art, appreciation is important. We need to have better, conduits so that young people who don't know about museum art get a way to, catch their interest. I love it. That's what hip hop does best. But just having that celebrity attraction, Met Gala kind of, focus, and then for the rest of the year, are you doing enough programs? Are you doing free museum days so that young people can come in and get access? Are you doing other hip-hop oriented workshops where you're inviting the community to come in and doing something rather than just gawk at the, absurdly expensive works owned by, legitimate hip-hop and musical stars and people that we look up to and value, but are you doing it on a regular basis? That's what we have to keep checking. So again, I have a big old list. Now that we're going to be doing these shows every week, we'll get guests. We'll get the director of the Brooklyn Museum to come on the show and talk about why they picked, why they worked with Swiss and Alicia, what the benefits of that, all the hip hop, intellectualism discussions we could have. And then we're going to say, well, now what are you doing for the rest of the year? And we'll make sure that these legacy institutions are continuing to do that and not just do it from their perspective, but to bring in practitioners and people like me. I don't work for a museum. I'm not a board member. I'm not in that donor class. I don't have a degree in museum management. I didn't work in a museum, but I'm no less qualified and have no less perspectives on how to bring hip hop into these legacy institutions because I wrote about it in 2019, years before they decided to do it. So I'm ahead of that game a little bit, but not just me. There's other people. I'm not the spokesman for hip hop. I'm not the guy that does, the end all be all. But I'm just saying we exist and we need to be incorporated in those, in those discussions and in those collaborations moving forward. So that's a few things I had tonight. some hip hop news that isn't about dumb ish. Hip hop news that isn't about dumb shit. Again, smack that subscribe button on YouTube is where we want to be. So if you're on Facebook, go over to hiphopcansaveamerica.com/watch. Don't tell Facebook we're cheating on them, but we want to kind of get everybody over there. The numbers are going up. I post additional content on YouTube that you're not going to really see on Facebook. On Facebook, I usually do my words. You see my posts. I say some things. But go over to YouTube. You can go to hiphopcansaveamerica.com/watch, or if it's easier to remember, youtube.com/Manny Faces, and you'll get there. And don't forget, I want to have an open conversation. I'm taking your Oh, by the way, we'll also have, I've set it up before, but I'll have it again where you could recommend folks. So if you know folks that would be great, interview guests, don't believe me, I have a list of like 250 that are long overdue, and I'm going through them all. We're getting them all organized and situated, doing these shows on a regular basis. You know what I mean? We can do this a little bit better, a little bit more often, and that's what I've been aiming at. So, but I'll give a chance to, obviously, because Andrew Wang's dropping names in the chat, which I love. But they're here. We'll have like a sort of a link that you can go to, and you could. I'm working on a hub. A little. You'll see what I'm doing, guys. I'm working. I'm working. Don't forget tonight. I would like to know. Give me 1 or 2 thoughts, 1 or 2 things that you've been noticing in hip hop that you want to either comment on, put it in the chat, and I'll give you my 2 cents. But it's basically I want to know. I want to know what's on your hip hop mind. We can have these conversations. It's something I want to expand on and do a little bit more often. It won't be a whole night's topic like we're doing tonight, but every now and then there'll be something that happens in the hip hop zeitgeist. You know what I mean? That I think we should be talking about on a more, I don't want to say intellectual basis, but a less emotional basis, or a more nuanced basis. There's folks who have these conversations. Like I say, you be on online, you hear discussions about people, not liking, something that happened, or some artist that did something, or, young versus old, or, some lists that came out, and Rolling Stone put out, Sexy Red song as song of the year. And, and then there's people that have these like wildly emotional discussions online, and there'll be memes, and they're sharing it all. And of course, they're just contributing to the algorithm that it inflates the reach of that story that they don't like. So they're contributing to it happening. It's madness. But I also want to say, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it like, hip hop heads that understand the nuances and can have these conversations. Is it bad? Is it good? Should we even be talking about it? Should we just ignore it? What does it really mean? And all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so what's on your hip hop mind, tonight? And again, I'll maybe do it as a segment as we get more and more people that are tuning into these shows, God willing. Like I said, the numbers are going up. People seem to be liking what we're doing. We'll have a little bit more interactivity. So I will throw that to y'all. Andrew says, I feel the 50th was about hip hop and culture and people supporting one another. And there's a few here. I don't know if they're connected. I am worried we are moving in another direction that I'm not happy about. I am Jewish, so all this anti-Semitic remarks, particularly by Ivy League presidents, make me feel offended. That's a touchy subject right now. I understand that. I feel the new culture of hip-hop is okay with it if we look at diss tracks and not being considerate of one another. How do we maintain the culture of hip-hop if we transfer to rap? Which I think is an interesting summation of that line of questioning. How do we maintain the culture of hip-hop if we transfer to rap? I'm not sure what you mean by transfer to rap, but, the idea of maintaining the culture of hip-hop is really big question. There are many people who would even differ on what the culture of hip-hop is, what it consists of. There's debate. Not everyone feels the same way. We heard some of that where when KRS was turned down his invitation to perform at the Grammys celebration of 50 years of hip hop, his reasoning was, y'all didn't really pay attention to hip hop for 50 years. So why would I pay attention to y'all now? And in that, I'm not even say the implication, because he literally said the words where he was saying basically by the culture, like hip hop is more than just rap, and y'all didn't respect the culture and all the cultural attributes of hip hop. And so that's inauthentic to me. I represent all the aspects of culture. Now, there's a discussion that can be had there, whatever, whether, you know, the Grammys are really actually only paying attention to one aspect of hip hop. And so why would you expect anything else? But even in that, Kara said, we all agree on 4 things that, you know, hip hop is MCing, DJing, breaking, and graffiti art. Well, you know, most people affiliated or knowledgeable about hip hop will agree that those are the kind of core artistic principles. But that's not a culture in of itself. Those are artistic components of a culture. I was having this talk with someone that I'm going to be on video with soon. D-Wiz. D-Wiz is a DJ, old friend of mine. But D-Wiz has spun for Salt and Pepper, concerts on the road. Was just doing stuff down here in Atlanta with Speech from Arrested Development. D-Wiz has been around this game for a long time. And we were having an offline conversation, and one of the questions he said, well, not a question, one of the things he pushed back on is hip-hop even a culture? So, Andrew, you said, how do we maintain the culture of hip-hop? Some people would say it's not a culture. So it's a big, complicated thing. Rap is the most front-facing, lucrative, and you know, in-your-face aspect of hip-hop, whether it's a culture or not, which I believe it is, and I think that scientifically and emotionally and culturally and socially, we can determine that it's a culture. And it's part of the argument I had with D, and we're going to have that conversation in greater detail. But I think part of that has to be why we do what we do here, Andrew, is that most people, even hip hop heads, even people, I see it all the time. We see them all the time. We don't appreciate or understand all that there is because of the entertainment aspect drowning it out. This is what people like Zulu Nation has done for all these years, or you know, Prism is in here doing stuff, is to shine the light on that. But we don't get a lot of opportunities to do that. We don't get a lot of support for that. We have to fight. Some of these stories I bring up on the show or in my newsletter, no one knows. But they're in Rolling Stone, they're in the New York Times. They're not in our hip-hop media. Hip-hop media has done a pretty bad job, generally speaking, of talking about these other aspects of hip-hop. It's just a fact. They don't talk about it. And so you don't get this information out, and people suffer, and the culture suffers. I'll say this, says the culture, as an Afro-Latino, I know and understand that hip-hop is Black culture. One thing that stood out to me when we attended the Hip Hop 50 show at Yankee Stadium last August, it was by far the most diverse we've ever seen. Whites, Asians, Blacks, Latinos, and the like, all in one building, partying and celebrating the culture. It was peace, and it was beautiful. Therein lies the key, my friend. And I've said this, and I've written this, and I'm not the first. I'm not the arbiter. I just bring it all together. I just bring it all in one place and try to deliver it. And again, Karis One, who, you know, is spoken about a lot of this stuff and is problematic in other ways. We know that we're not going to get into that conversation. But doesn't mean that it discounts everything he said. And one of the things he said in a speech some years ago, it was at the Netherlands or some lecture that he does when he goes out and lectures. And he says, in America, we have this thing about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his I Have a Dream speech and idea. The idea that, you know, no one should be judged by the content of their character, by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And that's the ideal. I mean, it's the ideal of America, right? All men created, you know, women, but, you know, all people are created equal. That's the fundament. Now, we don't live up to that. This country is never living up to that. We've made strides in that direction, but I don't know why it's so hard. We know why it's so hard. But, you know, moving in that direction, that's the ideal. Judge me not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. That's it. And Karis said it, in this big hip hop lecture, that nowhere in the world does that actually happen. In no part of the world are people, you know, judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin or by their appearance or by there's racism, there's bias everywhere. Point blank. That part of society, that ideal doesn't exist in society, except, he says, in hip hop. Now, there are problems in hip hop with people and other people because there are problems with people. But to the culture's point of the show at Yankee Stadium being so diverse and everybody together, that's because, as Kara said in this talk, it is an inclusive culture. And yes, absolutely, Black actually started and all roots lead back to Black diasporic culture, because not just Black American culture, it's all the, centuries of influences throughout the African diaspora, right? So, absolutely. But created and given to the world as a gift and said, this is an inclusive culture. If you come to this culture authentically, if you come to this culture with artistic, prowess, with, cultural prowess, with whatever, and you understand that all of these things together, we take influences from everywhere. It's a remixed culture. That you're welcome in this culture. It's an inclusive culture. And I said, when I heard things like that, I'm like, dang, no religion does that, because you can't be in the other religion and be in this religion. You just can't. No social group, nothing in the world, to me, that I've seen, and I'm no sociologist, but I've talked to a bunch, where you get that inclusivity, where you get that thing where we all kind of connect to this thing. It's to me, it's I don't know, it's not a utopian idea, but it's a beautiful example of what hip hop is. Shouts to Dr. Raphael Travis, one of our great supporters in the building. One time for you, brother. And right, Chosen Hip Hop says, we teach the different aspects of hip hop as music, culture, industry, way of life, and highlight the differences between hip hop music and gangster rap and radio rap. Answering, I think, to what Andrew was saying before. How do we? But at the end of the day, that's the point. It has to happen. It's not going to happen magically. It's not going to happen automatically. We're not going to just all of a sudden all these beneficial things that hip hop can do. It's so tough for teachers who have hip hop based educational, mechanisms or methodology to go into a board of education meeting and being like, okay, I've got this great new workshop. We take rap, right? And we bring it into the classroom. And they're like, what? Wrong answer. They're like, what? Rap? We're not bringing that crap into the classroom. And they got to start from zero every single time. They got to start from zero. They got to convince these people what this is and what this isn't. Like I said, the difference between hip hop music and gangster rap, the difference between hip hop, the culture, and hip hop, the genre, the beauty in that inclusivity. I've interviewed Dr. Andrea Hunt. She's from the University of North Alabama, and she teaches a bunch of white kids the sociology of hip hop. Mostly white kids. It's like a majority. It's in Alabama. It's in the red state. It's mostly white kids who, some of us don't really have any real knowledge of hip hop. But through this class and taking some of the stuff they know and hear, but they don't really understand it, and breaking it down, she tells me, she says, at the end of the day, they now have a better cultural understanding of their, folks that they don't necessarily interact with on a regular basis. They're not learning that at home. They're not learning that at church. They're not learning that, in their social settings. They learned it through hip hop. I mean, that's like cool stuff to me. That you can open eyes and you can teach material and you can bring people together and you can. So I don't know. It has to be amplified. Look, it's what I do. This is what I do. And I'm having these conversations so that we can do that. You know what I mean? So that's it. The answer is me, Andrew. I can help solve it all. But I can't do it alone. I can do it with y'all. I can do it with y'all subscribing and sharing. We'll get more voices on the show. We'll keep up the great interviews. Like I said, Dr. Raphael Travis, who's in the audience, works with mental health and, through hip hop, saving lives, saving kids' lives. Just, let's call for what it is. The potential's there. The practical fact is that it probably has, but the potential is there to save and help and uplift so many young people and grown-ups by bringing these ideas to a more, more open audience. But who's doing that? Who's having those conversations? I mean, it's happening in academic spaces. Shouts to Hip Hop Ed on Twitter. But I'm opening up another lane so that we can have these conversations and amplify these ideas. So thank you for sharing what's on your I did all this stuff I do. So it was beautiful. So that's that. Let me just recap. We're at the top of the hour. We'll go for a little bit longer, but we don't have to go all night and keep talking about this stuff if you don't want to. We're gonna have some great guests again every week. I want to have a guest, maybe two if we get lucky. I've got books that I'm about, like hip hop books that I'm reading. So yeah, we got a lot of. I'm waiting to get the authors on. I got a whole list. I've got someone helping me now. So I may actually be able to pull this off. So we'll get some people on that can tell us some things about some great things. Don't forget that I also, let's keep it going. Again, shouts to Andrew Wang, a music educator, goes to conferences, a public school music teacher up in Yonkers. To address these issues. I think it's super important that we are at these conferences. And what happens is, Andrew, you'll appreciate this. Dr. Travis, you'll appreciate this as well. That the more people do these things, the more research gets done, the more articles get written, the more journal articles get written. And sometimes that's what it takes. You got to speak in the language. You got to speak to the language, right? So they're like, well, we can't incorporate these ideas into our curriculum until we see results from a, quantitative approach to okay. So now more people could do this. So who's going to do that? People like you, Andrew, music educators, people who are teaching and know this connection, have one foot in the culture and one foot in the academy. You're able to do that. You're able to put together these things, put together these articles. You've already brought people to my attention to talk to bring on the show. And, same thing with Travis, what we've done, what he does with, folks like Elliot Gann, and what we've done with the Hip-Hop Advancement Association for Advancement and Education with our global conference on hip-hop education, which happened, late mid last year. Like, that's what we're doing this work, man. We put in this work to make all this happen. So we need y'all to do it. 100% Chosen Hip Hop also chimes in and says, we as the educators have to bring back the student apprenticeship aspect back to the culture. Now they can do it at home. They miss out on the knowledge from those before them. We are the teachers. And amen. And you know what? We get mad at the kids sometimes for not knowing the things. How they gonna know the things? How they gonna know that they don't respect us? They don't. Okay, well, true. By default, they're not gonna. We didn't. It's not automatic. We have to find a way. That's what I say about like this young. I talked about this before, and Dr. Travis, we talked about it. We may not like the music. We may not like the style. We may not like the messaging. We may not like the imagery. And first of all, neither did our parents with our stuff. And our stuff wasn't always innocent. So we got to remember that and stop all that. But also, we have to find the way to meet them where they are. They're not going to meet us where we are. They're not. They're not watching the show. I would love it if you are. Somebody young, 20-something, who talking hip-hop like he knows we saw. Like, what I don't understand is because they're not. It's hip-hop culture to us as we were older, growing up, was something we developed along with it. It became our culture. They're natives to it. Some of us are of a certain age where we got to go ask our kids, how you do this thing on the phone? You see what I'm saying? We have to go to them. They're not coming to us saying, hey, here's how you do this. Here's how you do this thing on the phone. It's their thing. They're keeping it to themselves. They're just doing it. But yeah, we could give them knowledge and advice and combine those powers into something great. But if we just sit back thinking like we know it all as older folk, nah, that's not the way to do it. That's not the way to do it. So yes, I think the student apprenticeship is Each one teach one. You want to bring somebody up. I was a DJ, and I was talking to D-Wiz again. I was saying, I love the fact that a DJ always, you learn from someone else. You watch someone, you carry someone's crates, you learn from someone else. You wanted to learn because they were willing to show you. And I think that as older folk in hip hop or in a hip hop mindset, we don't do enough of that. And again, I see it all the time. Like you go on the internet, you see everybody complaining. You see everybody put down the young folk and what they do. They're brilliant. Young folk are keeping it alive. And you can reach your young folk if you find out how to meet them where they're at. You don't like the music, but the music is connected to them in some way. So if you connect to them, you find out why they're connecting. We've had Lauren Kelly on the show that told that great story about when she was talking to young kids and she didn't understand why they liked that song. Doesn't appeal to her. It's misogynistic. The birthday song, 2 Chainz birthday song. Which is, by the way, it's my birthday month. If you really love me, go to my Patreon. You can support patreon.com/Manny Faces. That's a beautiful birthday gift. Beautiful birthday. I don't have a banner for it. But anyway, I said, why do you like this song? It's terrible. And they're like, it's okay. We like it. And she's like, why? You want your birthday to look like this? You want big booty hoes in your birthday? You want cakes in the shape of an ass? And you want women with their titties hanging out all in your... He's like, no, we don't want that. She's like, but that's what the song shows. Why do you like it? They're like, we want the ability to do that if we wanted to. And she said, oh. And I heard this, I was like, oh. She said, I don't want my birthday party to look like that. But if I did, I'd want to be able to do it. I want freedom. I want, monetary freedom. I want freedom to do what I want without being judged. All the things kids want. And so they look at these things as aspirational, but not like we looked at things as aspirational, like we just want the money, the cars, da-da-da. If you look at it deeper than that, what we really wanted. Oh, I want all the bitches. I want all the money. And what you really want is power. What you really want is some sort of agency over your life that we think only comes from having money and then being, overly masculine and being aggressive towards our foes and not submissive, the other dominant over our women. That's where it gets twisted. Society done twisted that up. But the overarching thing is you want freedom. You feel trapped. You feel like you don't have much. And you got to have that conversation with young people by addressing their music. If we wipe our hands from that, we miss so much. We miss so much. So yeah, it's my birthday month, and all I want for my birthday is a big booty addition to my Patreon account. A few of y'all give me some money every month to keep these things going, and I appreciate you. I shouted you. Baby Girl Faces shouted you out in the beginning. She will continue to shout you out. I have to add Patrick, who's subscribed through the Substack, through my newsletter, and I really, 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 really appreciate that. Also got a new one that just came in. I have to add also. So we will add all of these things to the beginning, and if you pay a certain level, you actually can come on and kind of be a guest co-host, like once a month, and sit through the news when we do the news in the beginning of the show. So take advantage of that. Come hang out with me and do this thing yourself. But if you pay at another level, I'll shout out your business or your link to whatever you do. So we're trying to give you some perks and all that. But what it really does is it just gives us an opportunity to bring you this show and to share with you news and views that are innovative and informative. And, Prism, put your sites, you guys, obviously, first of all, and we're long overdue. We've talked in other settings and, a standing invitation to come on the show and talk about the work you do. Let's set that up. Again, I'm just getting into the rhythm of this thing, and that's fantastic. And we're doing these, God willing, on a weekly basis. So please contact me. Well, you already have. You'll get the newsletter, but we'll be in touch. And I think I might have said, let's get you on and talk about it. The Connection to Educators is great. This is not a hip hop education show. I love that. I love that way of starting out in that connection space. Again, Dr. Travis is in the mental health space. We've had mental health school counselors and school psychologists on the show. But we've also talked, like I said, we've also talked to people who are doing hip hop in theater and in musical play settings or whatever. The Rhymes Over Beats folks I talked about who are now supporters as well. You know, we want to get that hip hop and technology again. We had the folks from Breakbeat Code on a couple episodes ago. That intersection I love the most. Like I say, hip hop and technology. I do a keynote speech. If you're a tech company or you're a school or whatever, I come in and talk. I also do a professional teacher development workshop on hip hop and technology. I think that's a brilliant combination, intersection, past, present, and future. We could completely solve a lot of issues of equity, inclusivity, diversity, all the things that these industries say, they want. We can introduce these ideas through an authentic connection to hip hop. So obviously, if you know what I've been doing, this is not new to you. I've been saying, preaching this for years. I just found a prettier way to come and do it. So I appreciate y'all for checking with me. Once again, if you're listening, I think everyone watching is on YouTube. That's fantastic. Subscribe, turn on notifications. I may do a pop-up every now and then. I like the what's on your hip hop mind as a pop-up idea too. Because like sometimes something might come up. I don't like getting into the daily stuff. I don't like to get into not that it's hip hop, but like the Cat Williams, Club Shay Shay thing. Like that stuff happens in hip hop a lot. And I don't always want to get into that. I feel like it's a big distraction, but sometimes let's address it as the intellectual folk that kind of circle around me and these shows. Let's talk about it in a way that, adds value. You feel me? Adds value. So we got a comment from Cortez Watson Jr. What's up? Good to see you. Dr. Travis is both remarkable and an academic mentor of mine. As I strive to get my PhD, I'm the designer of hip-hop-based mentorship frame. Brilliant. We got to talk. Tell me more. Hit me up, Cortez, sir, and we will delve into that as well. And Dr. Travis is great. There's so many brilliant minds that are working on the forefront of this. So that's why I say, like, sometimes to get into the gossipy stuff is such a waste of time. It's such a distraction. You know what I mean? It's such a distraction. But sometimes we could have fun with it. So every now and then I'll say, hey, what's on your hip hop mind? Andrew Wang says, can we talk AI? We can, and we will. That's something I've looked at in terms of its effect on the music industry. I've had some experience talking about AI in a social justice framework. Some of y'all may know I do another podcast called Newsbeat. Newsbeat incorporates hip hop music into journalism. We actually we do a whole show about social justice topics, whether it be mass incarceration or redlining or environmental racism, all kinds of topics that you hear about. But we kind of deep dive and go into we talk to academics and journalists and brilliant folks who are fighting these injustices and people who are afflicted by these injustices. And what we do is we very often invite independent hip hop artists to craft original rap lyrics, original verses based on that episode's interviews. So we weave it all together. It's like if Democracy Now! And Black Thought had a podcast baby. It's called Newsbeat. It's an award-winning podcast that's beaten the New York Times in the journalism category for podcasting. So it's a crazy, wild thing. And Bob Knutson, you shouts to Bob Knutson, the facial recognition episode. So we talk about the problem with AI and with facial recognition or some of these other technologies, in that they're inherently racist, because they're inherently programmed by people that don't understand diversity and multiculturalism. And so basically, if the white people can't tell black people apart, then the white people programmed AI can't either. And that's exactly what happens. We talked about this a few years back. So matter of fact, Newsbeat, I'm going to have a little incorporation with us here because I want to make sure that we don't just cover hip hop. I mean, we can, but Newsbeat's a hip hop show. And so sometimes I might bring you this. What? That's crazy. What am I doing over here? It's madness. I get it. So Newsbeat is a great podcast. We'll talk more about that in the future. We actually have an episode coming out this week. I believe it does touch on the war, the Israel Gaza conflict, and specifically, I don't want to get into it yet because I'm still getting the pieces of it. We'll be putting it out this week, and then we're doing something on New York Police Department police reforms. So that's an upcoming episode. And once again, we do incorporate hip hop. We always make it musical, but we do incorporate hip hop into these things as well. So yeah. So we can talk about AI in that regard, in the social justice aspects where I already have some experience at it, but I also would like to, delve into the effects on music. Even more importantly, how these things can combine, right? So let's find out, let's see what happens when we combine the problems of racist AI and, I don't know, the problem of racist use of lyrics as evidence in courtrooms. So now you might have AI being used to interpret lyrics that are being used as evidence. And again, just like the problem now with lyrics being used as evidence in courtrooms, which is another whole topic we're getting into. I got the book on it here. I got the people lined up. We're going to talk to them on this show. No one's talking to people like I talk. We're going to get into all of this year. We're going to have a lot of fun here. I mean, it's not fun to talk about, this. That's a terrible topic, but it's going to be fun anyways. It's fun in a way. So you can help me keep it going. We'll get into that. So AI, I think, is going to come up in that conversation as well every time we talk technology. And again, as we talk about music production, the art form, as much as I stay away from the entertainment aspect of, hip hop music, like purposefully and editorially, I just don't want to get into a lot of that stuff. It does raise a lot of really interesting questions that I think we'll want to talk to experts about. So yes, we will talk about AI and not Allen Iverson. We're not talking about a game. We're talking about practice. Practice paying. I hate the word paying. It's supporting the show. You know how these things work. Patreon.com/Manny Faces helps me keep all of this alive. It is now going to somebody's pocket to help me continue to do this. So we want to have these conversations, want to have these artists, these guests, and these topics. I don't want to say no one's doing it like me, but I do what I do. Help me do it. Patreon.com/Manny Faces. And we'll be back next Monday. I do expect to have guests. Shouts again to everyone on the check-in tonight, from Prism, from The Culture, Andrew Wang, of course, Chosen Hip Hop, Dr. Raphael Travis, Cortez, Watson Jr., who's going to follow up with me about that mentorship situation you got going on, who then also says, as a Northwestern University graduate, I can assure you that AI take is an absolute fact. Yeah, man. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. So yeah, AI is interesting. It's across the board. It's an interesting situation. And so, yeah, I'd love to see all the incorporation between hip hop and that. And once again, just don't forget, if you're in New York, you can go see Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats, gaudy art collection. No, I'm sure it's fantastic. It's good to do. I was going to share this with y'all. I thought this was funny. Let's see if this works. Can y'all hear this? I don't know. Maybe you can hear this. Let's see. Oh, no, because I have to do the thing. Let's try this again. Let's see if this works. Hang on. Let's share. I thought this was funny. I'm just going to share it with you. It was funny. If this works.
As an artist, I was thinking about this. The most disrespected artists in society, it got to be rappers. Nobody respects rappers. Think about what rappers are. Rappers are the best poets we've ever had. What's rap? Rhythm and poetry. So these are the most evolved poets we've ever had. We don't ever give them that credit, right? You ever read Edgar Allan Poe and then listen to Kendrick? It's not close, I promise. Because somebody will be like, well, not everybody's Kendrick, not everybody's Jay-Z. That's true. But even ignorant rap is better than every previous poet, right? Like, what did Shakespeare say? Shakespeare said, to be or not to be. It's cute. Lil Wayne said she sucked so much now I found a squirrel in her throat. It's better. Like it just is. No matter how you cut it, that's better writing. That's just better.
Yeah. Anyway, thought I'd share that with y'all. That's all today. So I'm gonna share things that are fun too. We're not always gonna be serious all the time. So shouts again. I think we wrapped up today. Like I said, I did it solo. I was afraid the weather would mess up our internet connections. It did not. So I don't think it did. We'll see how it looks on a playback. I've got all the fancy stuff happening. I didn't even play the bathroom break. That's an exciting video. We'll show that next time. The bathroom break video, the world famous bathroom break video. Once again, please do follow. It's not still playing, is it? No, good. Please do. Dang it. Please do go to the newsletter. Jeez, what's wrong with me? The newsletter. It's at mannyfaces.substack.com. See, I don't have free newsletter. See, I'm taping them all, but I'm saving them so that next time I won't have to do this each and every time. So you want to go to Manny Faces. That's me. .substack.com. It's free. Another thing I'm going to probably be getting out a little bit more often. And what you'll see, like, for instance, this was the last one, and I'll give you some updates, and then I'll thank my supporters, people who do the Patreon. This time I shared a video that I did, which is a great video, and you should really check it out. It was more like of me just kind of giving an essay, kind of just giving you a thing. It's like 8 minutes long. It's super dope. Then I'll give you a bunch of links. Hip-hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. We talked about Rhapsody. We talked about the Wu-Tang Clan and their residency in Las Vegas. An interview with Inongo Lumumba Kasango, a.k.a. Samus. I love Samus. Rap, hip-hop, and music studios as activism. Brilliant interview. Of course, our friend J.C. Hall, who was, again, a school counselor up in the Bronx where the people are fresh, does music making with school counseling. He's brilliant. He was on Good Morning America. They had a segment on the use of hip-hop as a therapeutic setting in schools. But of course, I had him on Hip Hop Could Save America about 3 years ago. So, Good Morning America. We had him first, whatever. A bunch of things like that. A little bit on the Young Thug trial, which is, again, interesting from a criminal justice standpoint. Use of lyrics, but hip hop on trial is a big thing. I want to actually give credit to Jewel Wicker. If you're interested in the Young Thug trial, it's an interesting, for a lot of reasons, it's interesting. It's madness, but again, because lyrics as evidence has been played in there, that's mainly why I'm keeping track of it. But also, like you say, hip hop and the criminal justice system have always interacted. So jewelwicker.substack.com, Jewel Wicker, WICKER.substack.com. But again, go to my Substack, mannyfaces.substack, subscribe. And then you'll get all this information, and you'll get more of it here, there, and everywhere, like Roy Kent. And so I'm just showing you some of the stuff from last, edition, the stories that we covered, and I'll bring some of them to this show. But the newsletter is really good. Lecrae talking about the growing popularity of Christian hip hop. I don't know that it's growing so much, but I found it interesting. I've also had thoughts about Christian hip hop. I've thought we had a great interview with this guy named Delvin Case a couple years ago on this show called Why White Christians Need Hip Hop, I thought it was a great piece. He was a professor of theology, I forget where. So again, I tied those two things together. The Hip Hop Atlas issue of the Global Hip Hop Studies Journal. We very much forget that hip hop is global. This is why I don't say we, I don't speak for anybody but myself. This is why I really find it hilarious sometimes when, who was the latest, not Dr. Umar, somebody basically said you can't be the best. It had to do with Eminem, and it was like, you can't be the best. Maybe it was Dr. Umar. Yeah, it was. Maybe I think it was Dr. Umar. You can't be the best at something that's African if you're not African or of African descent. Like Eminem can't be the best rapper because rap is African in its derivation, and therefore he couldn't possibly, by default, by definition, couldn't possibly be the GOAT. And I think that's ridiculous for a lot of reasons. Just me personally. I don't think Eminem's the GOAT. I don't think that that was even a big question. Like, I don't think anyone's given Eminem the GOAT status. Maybe a GOAT. Depends on the criteria. The whole GOAT conversation is stupid anyway. But the idea that nobody could be the best unless they were derived from, I guess, like the same bloodline as the culture. Going back to the conversation we had earlier about how inclusive this culture is, and that it was absolutely started by Black folk and have that African diasporic, in its DNA, 100,000%, as does all of humanity, to be honest. So it's the same as human. It's a microcosm of humanity, right? Hip hop is a microcosm of humanity. It all started in the motherland. It all started in Africa and branched out into everything that is. Okay, cool. But that's, people are saying, well, then, Tiger Woods can't be the best golfer ever, like, because by that logic. And it also reminds us that the best rapper in the world doesn't necessarily even have to be American. There's rap everywhere. The best rapper in the world might be of African descent, but it might not be. We don't because we think the best rappers in the world by default are in America. And there's some discussion of, well, we wouldn't know who's really super dope rapidly. That's my new word. Rapidly in another country because they don't get that kind of shine. And they may have, I'm just saying, we are very US centric when it comes to hip hop. And I try to, my good friend Natalie Crew, who follows the show and will always remind me that hip hop is universal, is international. And so I touch upon that in the newsletter. I make sure that we don't forget that. We don't lose sight of that. There's something super big in every major country, in every minor country in the world. And I said this once. This is funny. I said this once, and I didn't prove it. I didn't seek to prove it. But I did say that I often say you could pick me up, and I've heard other people say this. I want to say maybe Tony Blackman. I'm trying to give citation, but that you could pick me up and drop me anywhere in the world where there are people, like not in the ocean. That's not going to help, but anywhere in the world where there are people. And us of hip hop, culture, us of, hip hop ethos, mindset, whatever, we'll be able to find hip hop in that place. No matter where you put me in the country, in the world, I'll find hip hop. I'll recognize it. I'll see it. I'll recognize it. Maybe I'm a dancer and I could partake in a dance cipher. It's universal. The dance ciphers in Brazil or in Japan or in Norway, or in Ethiopia are the same hip hop dance ciphers that are in America or in Canada or in France or in England. Same thing. So we can go anywhere. We'll recognize, we'll see our cultural landmarks. We'll know how to connect to them based on our artistic or cultural ways of having social and emotional intelligence to vibe with those people, not knowing the language, not knowing the local customs, not being their friends, not being, from there. And probably by the end of the night, Mikal Amin might have also said this too. Probably by the end of the night, I'll have a place to eat and a place to sleep. Anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. And so I said, at one point I was like, I wonder if it could be said that hip hop exists in every country on the planet. And I forget who I was talking to that they may have said they looked into that. But I didn't do it like scientifically. I didn't say there's like 200 something countries. I didn't look at every single one, but I went to one on the list that I had never heard of, like Vinu Vishtu or something. I don't remember. I don't even remember. I don't know. I didn't know this place. It's a country? I'd never heard of it. It's somewhere in like the Indonesian, islands, that area where there's like 300 like island, not 300, but you know what I'm saying, like a bunch of island nations. And I went to Google and I was like, hip hop in Vinu Vishnu or whatever. And like the first thing that popped up was like somebody doing some breaking moves on the street in some part of Vinu Vishnu or whatever it was. First thing that popped, took 2 seconds. So I'm like, bro, like we can't discount the citizens of Vinu Vishnu because I'm making up an entire place. We can't discount those citizens because they're not African. Like, they're not African descent. The whole point of this, and if this was Dr. Umar, it's not the first boneheaded thing I feel he said about hip hop. You know, and I've talked about it go into my YouTube. You'll see me. I have a couple things to say. I'm not the only one by far. But we can give credit, and we must give, especially in America, where African American art forms have traditionally been whitewashed and white erased. From the beginning of time. I grew up, my introduction to music was the blues and jazz, and my dad, who was a sociologist, telling me when I'm like 6, they stole rock and roll from black people. Like, my dad was up on I knew from the beginning. So we know, and we have to say it over and over again. We have to make sure that everyone knows. And there's even discussion about how much Hispanic Americans contributed to the creation as opposed to the growth of hip hop. Like, it's a discussion. It has to be talked about. It has to be debated. It has to be put on, we have to get all this stuff, orally history by people who are still alive to tell the stories. The point is, we can have those discussions, give credit where credit is due, and we must. But we can't also discount, we're destroying the culture itself if we discount its ability to be inclusive and bring everyone together. And that in that culture, everyone is equal. It can't be both. It has to be one or the other. It's exclusive or it's inclusive. And so if it's inclusive and everyone's equal, and your authenticity and your skill and your, whatever it is, the criteria of goatness we might be talking about, because in some people's, vote, Jay-Z is the GOAT for many reasons. And it could be argued. In some people's vote, it's a different person. You got to know the criteria you're working with. But could it be Eminem? Yeah. Can't be discounted just because he's white. And I'm saying that as me, so I get it, but no, I think that diminishes the power of hip hop culture. The power of it is to unite and uplift humanity. We can have both of those things can exist. That's my rant on it. I just went on a little rant here at the end. Vinu Vishtu, Neil Levine. What up, Neil? Good to see you, my man. Yeah, it was Vinu Vishtu. The Vinu Vishtuians. They're great. They had the hurricane, the monsoon, but they're fine now. No idea. But trust me, it's worldwide, and trust me, that has to be looked at. So in that, this show is called Hip Hop Could Save America. Most people will say, I get it, but it could also save the world. And I'm like, I know, I'm working on that one too. Just give me a little, we'll support this one, and then we'll move on to that. But not only can we export these ideas to the world, we have a lot to learn from the world returning what we gifted them, because sometimes parts of the world do it better. Parts of the world still incorporate hip hop into their culture, hip hop culture into their local culture in a way that, we've forgotten how to do, or we don't get enough credit for, or, it gets run out by the fact that there's, people making money doing rap music. And so a lot of stuff gets lost. So I believe in all of these things. If you believe in it, please become a member of the show. Patreon.com/mannyfaces. $5 a month, I think. If you go to a higher level, I'll shout out your organization. I'll put your links in the newsletter. And then a higher level, you can actually come on the show and share the screen, and we can go over some of this news stuff every week. This hip hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. Hip hop news that isn't about dumb shit. And that's it. We'll have some great guests to talk about these things. Thank you to everybody who's been checking in. Andrew Wang always giving us great ideas and things to add to the list. Yep, hip-hop started in the Bronx as an evolution, a combination of all the cultures in that community, and it spread and evolved everywhere it went, and is now a global culture. I mean, that's it. That's it. And again, it's that thing that I said, that you could pick me up and drop me off somewhere in the world, and I'll be able to interact. It's what I'm going to talk to D-Wiz about, the great DJ D-Wiz. DJ'd for Salt and Pepper, done a bunch of stuff in the industry. And is my old friend. We both come from Westbury, Long Island. Shouts to Westbury, Long Island. Shouts to Strong Island. And I'll be talking to him on his stream. we'll get him on this one. And we'll talk about, he was saying, I don't know if hip hop's a culture, bro. And I'm like, I think I can make an argument for it. So I will share that interview as well. D-Wiz interviews some great people on his show. He's been doing it for a little bit, and then he's kind of bringing it back. He's interviewed, the folks from Kool and the Gang. He's been in the industry, so he knows like artists and musicians. And so if you're a musician following the show, I know we got educators, we got some fans, but if you like musician, you like that behind the scenes, like real artistry, like how do you do the thing you do as a musician? What's it like to make the music? What's it like to be in the studio? How do you use technology? How do you evolve over the years? He's going to go in on those kind of topics. So shouts to my man D-Wiz. I'm promoting him. I'm guesting on his show tomorrow. I will get more on that information. I'll share it on the newsletter. We have a nomination for Andrew Yang to be president. It's fantastic. It's great. I'm all for it. And perhaps a political candidate should take it out of that here. Man, Knutson, man, listen, I would love political advertisements. I would also love to consult with political candidates. I think that I have a unique perspective to share. So if anyone knows any politicians, especially in an election year, I think that hip-hop has an amazing potential for outreach. I think that almost every time that it's been done wrong. And that includes the big name platforms, like the Breakfast Club and all that stuff. It includes local level stuff. It's usually done wrong. I have some thoughts. We'll talk about that another day. We are going to talk about hip hop and politics, by the way, Bob Knutson. Of course we are. So we're definitely going to be helping out, that connection. We'll talk to folks like Do It All. I know Do It All in Newark. He's on the city council now from Lords of the Underground, now city council of Newark, New Jersey. We have a couple of hip hop artists or just folks with a hip hop mindset that are now in political office or connected in that way. So I got that on the lineup too. This is going to happen. All this is going to happen now. All you saw me do in the last 2 months was get ready for this so that I could have fancy artwork and graphics and make it look good with banners. Look at this. Bling. Bob Knutson, I can even do this. Amazing. Right? Come on, who does that? Why? I don't know. I don't know why I need to do that, but I can. That's the important part. So now that I've gotten everything working right, I had to go through 3 streaming services to see who, quality-wise would keep up, the right. So I'm going to see how this looks on the playback, make sure that we're in good hands with this streaming platform. It seems to look and sound and smell and taste pretty good. Y'all tell me if you think it sounded and looked good. We had some problems in the past, so hopefully, we'll see, and we might be set. Shout out to my man Silent Night, who will join when he can as a co-host. Andrew Wang brings up a good point that Mondays do conflict with football. I get it. Luckily, we're coming in at the end of the season, so at least for maybe the next couple of weeks, we might still have some conflicts, but if you love me and you can't be here because of football, I'm okay with that. This is my birthday month though. So, patreon.com/mannyfaces. A couple dollars a month goes a long way. And I will forgive you for your NFL transgressions by supporting that racist organization. No, I was saying, look, I get it. Football happens. It's cool. But you can support the show, help with get the newsletter out so that even if you missed the show, you can obviously catch it on the replay on youtube.com/Manny Faces or hiphopcansaveamerica.com/watch, whatever's easy for you to remember. Go there, make sure you subscribe right now. Subscribe, and before you go, I'm probably wrapping up now. Share it, and then they'll have missed it, but then they'll see it and they'll be like, "Oh, dang it, I should be there next time." Monday is 9:00 Eastern. I think we're weekly now. I think we're officially weekly now. I know I danced around a little bit in December, but we should be able to keep to a schedule now. And that's it. I will have a place for you to recommend people. I know some of y'all drop names in the chat. You can email me or DM me. You can follow me. You see where you can follow me up here. I'm on Instagram, Manny Faces Official. That's probably the best. Or on Twitter X at Manny Faces. hit me up with some ideas or whatever. I have a ton of lists, and sometimes people send me a name, it's already on my list. But now I got some help. We're gonna be rocking these guests. We're gonna be rocking these conversations, and I'm really, 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 really grateful that y'all are here and hanging out with me. So hopefully this time works for y'all. The show works for y'all. Some of y'all are now becoming like day ones, you know what I mean? So I appreciate you checking in. Once again, shouts to everyone who's checked in tonight, from Andrew Wang, of course, Chosen, The Culture, Prism, rather. Raphael Travis was in early before. Check out my interview with him. That's super enlightening. Of course, Cortez Watson Jr. on the check-in. Bob Knutson is on the check-in. Bob, we got a news beat and on effing the Republics coming out this week. I'll be busy. That's why I do these Monday, by the way, because I got other shows, other podcasts that I need to produce and edit during the week. So Monday works for me. I hope it works for y'all. Neil Levine, my man, my mellow. Good to see you, my friend. Shouts to you, and hope all is well back on Strong Island. Chicago. What's up? Cortez from Chicago. All right, that's it. That's it. Long Island, Yonkers, Wisconsin, Chicago, and me down here in the A. So that's it. All right, cool. My name is Manny Faces, and one time for me. I appreciate y'all checking with me, rocking with me. Follow, subscribe to the free newsletter, and we'll be back next Monday. Higher power willing. And yeah, we'll be back. This is great. This has been great. Y'all are great. Thanks for rocking. If you're on Facebook, go to YouTube. Okay? If you're on Facebook, go to YouTube. That's where we're gonna. I'm gonna stop broadcasting on Facebook soon. So it's just all gonna be over there. So at least be subscribed there, please. hiphopcosaveamerica.com/watch or youtube.com/mannyfaces. You'll find me. You know how to work these things. Subscribe there. Let's get these numbers up. It's been trickling up. It's a few hundred, it's not a lot, but I started at, 0, a little while ago. So I never really focused on YouTube, but now we popping over there and we're starting to get a little action. So, subscribe, turn on notifications, share this show right now. It'd be a good time to share the show. And then, like and comment on the videos, get the algorithm working in our favor. And we might be able to make something real happen here. So thanks. I really appreciate y'all. This is a lot of work. And sometimes I feel like, I don't know if anyone's going to pay attention. Y'all are paying attention, and I appreciate you. So always take your suggestions to heart. And I love all the comments and you telling me what was on your hip hop mind today. One more time. Let's see that graphic because it's cute. Just showing off. All right. I'll talk to y'all next week. Peace and love. Share this show. Thank you. I love y'all. Peace.